Hey, I'm Steph from TheFitandFearless.com. Today I am interviewing Daniel and Diana Eisenman, the Freedom Catalyst and Life as Diana, as well as the wonderful Josh Tarnofsky from TheFitandFearless.com. We're here in Arches National Park in Utah. Daniel Eisenman is a solar-powered, polar-plunging, Jesus-loving, globe-gallivanting modern-day nomad. He's known as Danimal by a subculture of friends and fans that follow the Raw Bras, a health and wellness movement pioneered by he and his brothers in late 2010. Daniel Eisenman has a dream to get paid to do the things that he would pay to do, and the Raw Bras provides that exact platform for Daniel to travel the world as a keynote speaker and facilitator of radical retreats based on the principles of raw honesty and emotional freedom. Recently, he's become known as a freedom catalyst for others by creating and facilitating a mastermind, or what he refers to as a master heart group known as 10 All In. You can find him exploring the globe with his Danish Thai wife, whom he actually met at one of his retreats back in 2012. Diana Eisenman is from a small town in Denmark, which is where she spent almost 24 years before making a decision to buy a flight to the great land of opportunities, America. What seemed like a 3-week vacation turned into a fairy tale romance with her now husband Daniel. After traveling to over 10 countries and many world wonders together, Daniel and Diana have created a dream lifestyle. She shares her story of empowerment to inspire others to embrace their own perfect imperfections and appreciate everything that life throws at them. Josh Tarnofsky is a former restaurateur and entrepreneur turned certified personal trainer, RKC Kettlebell, and Yoga Alliance instructor. After a decade as a restaurateur, Josh realized his calling, empowering people to discover balance within their personal and professional lives. Josh's unique mixture of business experience, personal training, and Ayurvedic nutrition guided him to develop a system guaranteed to improve the lives of everyone from office executive to professional athlete. Okay, so today I'm here with Daniel and Diana Eisenman, and of course, Josh, and we're talking about what it means to be fearless. So on a different video, I think it was Jake Ducey, I asked him who he would suggest to interview next on being fearless, and of course he suggested Daniel. Who do you recommend that we interview next on our channel? Is there someone who pops into mind that you think is just super inspirational in a fearless way?
I think one of my favorite people on earth is Daniel Eisenman.
So this is kind of the piggyback.
Jake Ducey.
I could see him saying that.
Oh yeah. So Daniel, let's start with you. For you, what is fear? How do you overcome fear? And what would you say to somebody else facing their fears?
I would guess fear is the shadow side of excitement. What was the next question?
How do you overcome fear?
I would not want to recommend people overcoming fear. I would want to recommend finding freedom by facing your fear and using fear as your target, actually, to continuously start facing your fears, because what you'll find is, what I've found and countless others, is they found a lot of freedom, and they found out that the thing to fear the most was fear. And that's actually being scared. To me, that's where the difference between fear and scared. Being scared is being afraid of your fears. Being courageous is facing your fears. And I don't know anyone that's fearless. I imagine Jesus was fearless. No, actually, I imagine Jesus had fear too. I imagine that he told the truth through his fear. And that's why I think the most important thing through any shadowy emotion would be to tell the truth through experiencing it.
Yeah, I think that's so important for everybody to focus on, is like, fear is this thing that we have. We're human. So fear comes up, and really appreciate that viewpoint on that, Daniel. So Diana, she has a very interesting story on how she overcame her fear. And ironically enough, we have our Utah retreat coming up. So to tie things in even more, Diana, can you tell everybody about overcoming fear with a retreat for you?
It makes so much sense. I think most people, when they're considering going on a retreat, maybe in this case, you want to come to Utah, you're not quite sure, should I do it, should I not, do I have enough money, what about my job, what's my boyfriend going to think, what's my parents going to think, what is everyone else going to think? And really that question does not matter. The question is, what do you think? But the fear that comes up around all these questions is nonetheless really real. but that doesn't mean that you have to listen to it. So me personally, coming from Denmark, I went from Denmark to go on my very first retreat where I met Steph and Dan, and that was 3 years ago. And I left thinking that it was going to be 3 weeks. And here I am, it's our 3-year anniversary during the retreat.
I like
and
that.
The threes.
the threes. And I didn't have a job. I was still in a weird situation, living with an ex-boyfriend, and had to move out of the house, and basically no job, no money, no nothing. And everyone was telling me, you can't do it, you shouldn't do it, you know, get a job, save up, get an apartment, and then maybe in a year when you got your money and your stuff together, then you can go. And I was like, yeah, that's very rational, but no, that does not feel good. So I went with my own gut. I was scared shitless. And because I didn't have the money, I borrowed it from friends and family and everyone I knew. I think 3 different people I borrowed money from to make this happen. And I went. 6 months later, I was married to this guy. And a couple of world wonders later, and maybe 10 plus countries. I can't even count anymore. In 3 years, I'm still here. And some people might say, well, that only happens to, like, whatever, the girl next door, or the grass is always greener on the other
Disney
side.
Channel.
But the truth is, it's not. And if you don't take a chance, you're never going to find out. It's the same with playing the lottery. It only happens to everyone else. Yeah, and if you don't play, you'll never find out. So the fear is going to be there. And all you need is that 30 seconds of courage to just do it.
But you know the good thing, the difference between the lottery and the lottery of facing your fear is that every time you're a winner.
Yeah, yeah, true.
That's
But
the main difference.
I remember personally, I was super scared because it was a lot of money and I didn't have it. Basically, I was going to come home from this 3-week trip and be broke and not have a place to live, potentially move in with my parents again, which I did not want to do. And I remember having to buy the flight ticket, and I would walk around the computer and be like, okay, I'm just going to do it. And I was like, and then I'd walk back and I would like circle around again. Okay, I'm just going to do it. And I mean, I walked around that computer 10 times
That's
before I
awesome.
just click, and I was like, shit, what did I
Man,
just do?
the whole life changes with one click.
One click, and
Wow.
all it took was that 30 seconds of courage. Just click, and it was booked. And I was like, I guess I'm gonna have to see what happens next.
Wow.
I do want to add one more answer to your question by asking you a question. Is,
Ooh, okay.
have you ever met anyone that said something even remotely close to, man, I really wish I didn't face my fear today?
Oh yeah, I mean the answer is obvious. No, never.
And I actually want to be very clear that was with quotation marks because I'm a big believer in the way you can actually create your reality by what you say. So that was an impersonation of someone else. I love facing my fear. I love it.
Yeah, it's once you go ahead and do it, it's just the most exhilarating, enlivening feeling ever.
And it's the same with working out. Like, no one ever says, I regret doing that workout.
Right.
It's like, isn't that like a Facebook quote or something?
Yeah.
You don't regret it, but getting there, like
That's
actually
the
getting
weird
to
part.
the gym, buying that ticket, spending that money that you think you don't have, that's the hardest part. But once you get over that lump, then you are hanging out with unicorns and fairy dust is everywhere.
Glitter,
Sparkle!
But I also want to be clear for the people that Diana you mentioned that are telling the story that only happens to other people. I think they're telling the truth about themselves.
Yeah, because as long as they don't do it, they're never going to be those people.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you believe
exactly.
it.
They
Yeah.
keep telling the story, and they just want to. They want to live up. They want to like basically tell the story and write their own book. And what I would say is a lacking potential way because it's less scary. But in reality, I think that's the biggest risk of all is not taking the risk, especially the risk your hearts call you to take, because that's a practice. It's a daily practice. And the more you practice doing the opposite of what your heart's telling you, the better you become at that.
and the more miserable you become.
You know, I guess one way to put this is that most people are really not very optimistic when it comes to pursuing their passion, their dreams, because there's all these things wrong or, you know, against you that makes you unable to do these things, whether it be money, time, family, friends, whatever, you name it. But you wake up every day really optimistic, actually. thinking that you have another, depending on how old you are, 60 years to live in. Like every day you're like, oh, I'll do that tomorrow. I'll do that tomorrow. Well, you don't even know if you're going to be here tomorrow. And you have a 10-year plan. That's great. But do you really know if you're going to be here 10 years from now? So when you wake up thinking that I can do this 10 years from now, what if you just woke up and were equally as optimistic about pursuing your passion or your dreams?
Yeah, and there's always that feeling of your heart telling you to do something. It's never a coincidence.
Mind and heart, two very different things.
Yeah.
That's my wife.
That's awesome. I always like to think of this analogy of the flying trapeze. So there's this like poem about the flying trapeze where you're holding onto a trapeze bar and you see the other one, or you see multiple bars in the distance, and you know that you can no longer stay on your bar. You know there's no option, but you have to go to the other, but you're so scared to make the jump because you don't know if you're going to make it. And so finally you muster up the confidence and you just let go and you just fly through the air, unsure if you're going to make it to that next bar. But that moment right there in between one bar and another is the most alive you will ever feel. And then, of course, boom, you grab that bar, and then there's always going to be a next bar. But that aliveness in between is where you just feel so incredible and amazing. So we always encourage you to take that opportunity to feel that middle part and enjoy it and go for it, because some people will never let go of the trapeze bar and never feel it.
But I think that's because most people have this idea of worst case scenario in case shit happens. But if you start to ask yourself questions, then what is that worst case scenario really? That you're going to run out of money and not have a job, not have a place to live. I imagine that you have a network, that you have family, that you have someone. If worst case, you can live in your car if you have one. You can camp. Like, we have so much fun whenever we're on weird trips and eating avocados and canned sardines all day and living in the car. Like, it's doable. Nothing is going to be as bad as you think. And it's really the thought of how bad it can be when you start to think about it. It's actually just fun.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. I imagine had I come back broke and whatever the stories that people would tell me, I would be able to stay with my friends till I got my shit back together.
Yeah.
In case shit really happened.
Yeah.
But it's just an idea. The worst case is not.
Yeah, it's not that bad. We had that discussion the other day where we were just talking about what really is the worst case scenario. And it's okay. It's like, yeah, that would be not ideal, but I'm not going to die. Like, I'd still be alive. I'd still be happy.
And then you do something new from there. It's a new adventure starting from that moment. And you never know.
There is no worst case scenario.
But most people like the certainty, waking up, making their smoothies, drinking their coffee, going to work, train back, traffic, and watch TV, and then go. Like, you're comfortable. You know what's going to happen. You know you're going to get drunk and hang out with your friends on the weekend. And you kind of know where your life is going. And that's great if that's what you want, but I dare to say that would be fear holding you back, because I doubt that that's really the true desire for anyone.
Yeah, isn't there that part of you that knows that you are made for more and knows that there's something more out there in your life that you're supposed to be doing? I feel like we all have that drive, and a lot of us don't act on it, but when we act on it, whoa, like you talked about, fairy dust and glitter. Unicorns. And Josh, we haven't heard very much from you, so I know that you have a lot of stuff going on in your head. How do you feel about fear and fearlessness?
Laugh at it. That's good.
That's all I got.
Giggle and laugh
That's
at
all
it.
I got. Just laugh. No, for me, fear is something that I didn't realize I seemed to handle very well, but at the same time, I didn't understand what I was doing. So for me, there was never really such a thing as fear. It was more a thing of stress. And I didn't realize that I was allowing that to build up stress inside of me by not properly facing that fear, or not properly acknowledging it, and then allowing myself to embrace it. And something that I always used to do when I had a fearful time or a fearful place that I was thinking about going into or experiencing, I would start to realize that fear is strictly a perception. Like they said before, there's really no worst case scenario. It's all about how you view it. And when you start to realize that we are designed to function just like nature.
Was there a noise like the camera turned off, or am I just hearing things?
It's a fly. I was just thinking, Iverson, Josh for flipping that screen
Yeah,
because
all of
you
a
can't
sudden I
tell
was
if
wondering
it's
when the
on.
camera was off. And I was like,
Let me check it out.
I didn't know whether to let you keep going or.
I appreciate it.
It's still good.
It's still good. Okay, cool. Well, maybe I'll just let's see if you can get back on track, like Jack Kerouac, back on the home. Can you deal with that?
Yeah, and I really believe that our makeup and just being a human being, we mimic nature and the way things happen, the way things are a reflection of nature versus how we are operating our lives. And anytime you put anything in nature into certain situations, they're always going to adapt or evolve. And I started thinking of myself in that way, is fear wasn't a thing that was this untangible concept pushing down upon me or blocking me from something, but it was always something I could put myself into, and as another element which helped me grow or helped me adapt or helped me evolve. And I always realized that everything in nature seems to be in that same pattern. It goes into different seasons, which can seem to wipe flowers out, for example. And the snow comes down and just takes care of an entire field, but then next spring everything rises up again. And it's just as strong, if not stronger, than the year before.
It's a cycle.
Yeah, it's all a cycle. And the quicker you can realize that, the quicker you can start understanding that the stories we're telling ourselves around the fear are just perceptions. And I don't know, I believe too, meditation always helped me a lot. Just being with the concept and realizing that anything that I'm about to experience, I will be okay and survive.
Yeah, I'd say whenever you start to think and rationalize and create these ideas in your head, imagine your brain just dropping down into your heart and then just let go of the thoughts, but feel what it feels like.
Mm-hmm.
And you can easily judge if it's good or bad. And as soon as your thoughts start to come up again, then just notice them and then ignore it and focus on what your heart is telling you. Because on a physiological level, there is no difference between excitement or fear, which is another thing that we actually show you and walk you through doing these retreats, because I remember that for myself. Whenever I'm standing like at the edge of a cliff and Dan wants me to jump in the water, I'm like, I don't want to do this. And I'm scared. But it was the exact same feeling I was feeling the day we got married. I was like, 6 months, am I really going to do this? This is awesome, but I'm scared, Mom. No, this is good, this is whatever. And it's the same thing that happens in your body. So the difference really is just your mental ideas of what it looks like. Anxiety, depression, I mean, it's all what goes on. It's the images that you create. So drop down.
And I think that we're talking more about mental and emotional fears and spiritual fears here. I think there's just like all emotions, there's definitely at least 4 different major facets, which would be the mind, body, spirit, emotional. And yeah, it's cool that you mentioned the trapeze artist, because what I found is that some people this is not a rule, it's just something I've noticed, that sometimes when someone's very afraid of facing an emotional fear, sometimes they seem more apt to face a physical fear and actually maybe more potential of hurting themselves physically. It's very interesting that, and I think it takes a certain level of discernment and loving yourself, and that means facing emotional fears, and that means facing mental fears. And that means and then the same thing, you might see some people getting caught up in the spiritual world, like almost spiritual warfare, but because they're so scared in another aspect of their life. Maybe because they're so scared of physically exerting themselves that they'll seek excitement in the spiritual world. They actually are not really drawn to it. They're almost repulsed to, but they are like looking for excitement somewhere because they've dulled themselves down in other parts of their life. So I think the world right now is starting for, like, it's almost a little bit, and I heard Teal Swan, the lady and I interviewed, that Diana introduced me to, she believes that we're in an emotional dark age, and I wonder if she's telling the truth about that. It seems like as a collective consciousness, people have become really scared of facing their emotional fears.
Yeah. Yeah, we see a lot of people very trapped, and we've worked through our own emotional trappings, and it's ridiculous how much it can hold you back and you don't even realize it. Just the things that come up, and Josh and Daniel are extremely good at seeing that kind of stuff. So I really, really value you guys for taking the time to dive into that with everybody. There's one question that I still wanted to ask. It's to everybody. I really value all three of you and the things that you've done with your life and the places you've gone and just the experiences you've had. You've really tasted life, and there's so much more life to taste. But what do you think where do you think you would be if you hadn't faced, or if you hadn't gone up against your fears? Where do you think you would
want
be?
to think about that.
Yeah.
I would probably still be sitting in Denmark, working a job that I didn't like, being in relationships that weren't good for me, and drowning myself with alcohol. That's what I imagine.
Josh or Daniel?
Yeah, for me, it's very possible that I would have been dead by now. I would have stressed myself to death. And it's not because the life I was living before wasn't something that I could have learned to love and understand, but by facing my fears of changing up my lifestyle, I was able to realize how my emotions were running me so much before. And I was just an emotional wreck, as they say. And I was to the point where I was so stressed, I was physically ill. And I remember I had to sleep 12 hours a day to not feel like I get hit by a bus. And I was walking into walls during my daily routine. My hands were shaky. Just weird physiological things were happening. And as I removed the stress and started to change my entire environment and lifestyle, I started to heal myself and come out of that place. And I'm certain that I would be dead right now if I had not changed my life.
Yeah, slowly dying. You are slowly dying if you're not following.
Emotional suicide.
Yeah.
And I think a good point for a lot of people is to realize that just because you're alive doesn't mean that you've committed to living at all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How about you, Daniel?
My answer is going to be so different.
You are just different.
We can always
So
count on
different.
that and enjoy it.
Was that Steph's hand? Or?
That was mine.
But that was abnormal. Steph's just reaching in the air like that.
My hand.
She's like, we
It
can
was
always count on you to be there. I was like, whoa.
You can pat him. It's okay.
I have a faith that whatever decisions that whoever's watching this has made up to this point in their life is the right decision. So, yeah, I believe I would be exactly where I'm supposed to be.
Exactly here right now.
No, I think I'd be somewhere
I get
very
your
different.
point.
I think I'd be somewhere very different.
Oh, okay.
But I would be where I was supposed to be.
Yeah, I mean, until you actually make that decision that everything is where you're supposed to be, but that doesn't mean that you can, recreate your own story or your own life.
I can guess for the sake of this game, I would imagine, like, for the same idea, like y'all's answers, I imagine I'd be like a doctor and probably, yeah, it's probably living up to orthodox, maybe some people would consider dogmatic Christian beliefs. I think a doctor, if I had to guess.
Well, thank you all for your input. That's so inspirational, and I'm really excited for everybody to watch this video and to hear what your own fears may be, what you would like to overcome, and how you can overcome it. And just a quick insert that we will be having a retreat here in Utah, which is what all these beautiful rocks are. We're actually underneath an arch. You can't see it right now, but we're doing that September 23rd through the 28th of, this is 2015. Yes, so this is our anniversary of meeting of these two, and Diana
And
really
Josh's
taking a
birthday.
leap. Josh's birthday on the 23rd. Woo. So many good things coming up. But thank you so much for watching. We're really grateful for you, and we just encourage you to go out and be the change in the world. All right, we love you. See
I
you later.
realized I did have one more thing. I realized I answered that question under the assumption that y'all know my relationship with God.
Yeah.
I thought maybe that came off a different way. Like, I am a Christian and I follow the path of Jesus, and
No need to obsess.
I love God, and I am an expert in obsession. If you have an issue, if you think you have an issue with an obsessive mind, I will show you that's one of your greatest gifts. Now I feel more complete.
Thanks for that, Daniel. That was me that time. All right, we'll see you guys. Bye. If you like this video, make sure you hit the like button. Also, subscribe to us here on YouTube for more videos like this on being fearless. And we want to hear from you, so make sure you comment below and let us know what fear you have coming up that you want to overcome. We're all about community and sharing, so also share this with your friends and family if you feel like it can benefit them and expose them to new information maybe they've never even heard of. You can also go over to TheFitandFearless.com and sign up for our email newsletter where we send out exclusive information on being fearless, being fit, and all the great stuff in between. Thank you for watching, and we will see you in the next video.